Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Sports Ball Talk Show. Joined by Frank and Gian, of course. Hope you guys had a wonderful...
What's good?
Yeah, what's good? It's good. There's Gian. Hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas. Bad weather all over the country. I think 60% of the country was under severe weather advisory, so I hope everyone's okay. I know there were some bad storms up in New York, particularly the Buffalo area. Killed a few people, so prayers out to those people, and hope everyone else is staying safe. Pipes are bursting everywhere. My old apartment complex, every single pipe in every single apartment burst, and now everyone's stuff is ruined in every single unit. So hey, good, I don't live there anymore. We're going to talk about Bum of the Week first. Usually this is like our third or fourth segment, but this week it's such a big one that we're going to talk about it again. And preface, we're reusing a guy which we said we wouldn't do unless it was that bad, but this week it was that bad.
It was that bad. It was that bad. And this one's a little bit different because we're going with the Broncos, but specifically Russell Wilson, and more specifically Nathaniel Hackett, because Russell Wilson has played like poo-poo all year, but some of that has to be attributed to Nathaniel Hackett because of his horrible play calling, which led to him getting fired. So this past week, the Rams and the Broncos played each other. They're against Baker Mayfield. Rams came out, 2 weeks ago with Baker Mayfield, had a great game. I mean, not a great game, but good enough to win with that 2-minute drive by Baker Mayfield. Last week, they didn't play so well, and I was like, okay, yeah, Baker's kind of settling in, that kind of stuff. And so this week, we were like, yeah, Broncos are probably going to win this one. I think, everyone except for Frank. So Gian and I both picked the Broncos to win and cover. That did not happen. The spread was only 2.5. The Broncos lost 14-51. The Rams scored 51 points on the Broncos. The Broncos are supposed to have a great defense. Russell Wilson had, 2 or 3 interceptions in this game. Yeah. So, Russell Wilson played horribly. And what resulted from this game is that Nathaniel Hackett got fired. So Baker Mayfield got Nathaniel Hackett fired. One touch and the 3 interceptions. Baker Mayfield, hey, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I love Baker Mayfield. He is the third MVP, so he's in an elite class that only 3 NFL players in history can say, that being Mitch Trubisky, Dak Prescott, and now Baker Mayfield. So he's in probably the most elite class of quarterbacks that have ever played the game of football. You got like your MVP, and you got your Hall of Fames, but how many people have won MVP? A lot. How many people have been a first ballot Hall of Famer? A lot. How many people have won the MVP? 3. That is the tightest group that has ever been classed by the NFL or by Nickelodeon, depending on how you want to look at it. But he won it, and he deserved it because cooking up 51 points against this Broncos defense, which has been good all year, horrible. Nathaniel Hackett got fired, like we said. He was supposed to be, I should say. I wouldn't say he was, because he wasn't anything but a waste of money on the Broncos end. But the richest NFL owner, the Broncos, decided, let's go get this offensive guru from the Packers, Nathaniel Hackett, who had brought Aaron Rodgers a back-to-back MVP season. It makes sense. You think this guy who has the back-to-back MVPs running that show, let's go get that guy to be our head coach. Well, I guess they didn't realize that was on the back of Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and so whenever he lost those two and had a completely new system with Russell Wilson, who's not as good as Aaron Rodgers, you've got Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, who are not as good as Devontae Adams, you've got your tattered running back core, which has been beat up all year, which is not as good as A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. You don't have Matt LaFleur, who I think Matt LaFleur is a pretty good coach overall. Not the best, but he's pretty good. You lose all that and you're running your own thing. You're just not as good. It's kind of like whenever Matt Nagy was offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, was insane, and then he went and started coaching in the Bears and they sucked. I mean, he had, I guess, one good season, but they were not a very good team with Matt Nagy, so he lost his job from there. But it's just interesting how this happens. I think kind of a lot where usually they pick an offensive coordinator as opposed to someone else, but usually like what happens is someone will be very, very good, like let's say the best defense in the league. Someone will go and hire their defensive coordinator to be their new head coach, or if they have the best offense in the league next season, they'll get hired as a head coach. And usually that doesn't work out. And this is a prime example of that happening because Nathaniel Hackett is horrible. As much talent was on this Broncos team, which injuries obviously are there. Russell Wilson's not with his old system. Got to have new chemistry, all that stuff. And I said that at the beginning whenever I said that I didn't think the Broncos were going to make the playoffs. But as bad as they've been, there's no excuse. I mean, I didn't expect them to have 4 wins all season. I expected them to maybe be in the 6-7 range. But this is embarrassing, especially the margin that they're losing these games is on the back of Nathaniel Hackett. And I'm excited to see what Russell Wilson can do with him gone, honestly. I still don't think Russell Wilson to be that good, but it's kind of exciting to see if he can step up a little bit from that. So he's Bum of the Week. Baker Mayfield got this guy fired, and he is the third MVP. What are you guys' thoughts on the whole situation? I thought that
this should have happened a while ago. I think that the Broncos have been playing poorly enough all year that this warranted consideration halfway through the season, so that they could have gotten ahead of this. But now here we are at the end of the season, and I think there's 2 weeks left to play, a week left to play, and they're left scrambling for people. Now it doesn't look as bad as it could be, maybe because they could hire Sean Payton and Vic Fangio, as their defensive coordinator. Fangio, I think, coached the Broncos last year, if I'm not mistaken, so he already kind of has, that connection there and knows what's going on. But I think that one of the reasons, kind of like you were saying before, they had hired, Hackett was because of Aaron Rodgers, and they were trying to, get that elite quarterback to come to their team, because that's what it seemed like. That was all that they were missing, was an elite quarterback. And then they get Russell Wilson, and they're like championship or bust, and it has certainly been a bust so far this season. I mean, the scoring that the Broncos had was from absolutely just nothing. Like, they had 2 field goals, and then they had a 11-yard touchdown pass in the fourth quarter, and that was literally the only time that the team looked even like somewhat okay. So I think Nathaniel Hackett deservedly is the bum of the week. He is one of a lot of NFL coaches that I think this season will be losing their jobs, but glad that he lost it now, because I like the Broncos. I wanted to see them do well, but unfortunately, that was not their season. So they did not ride.
Yeah,
Gio.
and I agree with you, Frank. I mean, from the get-go, I knew Hackett was a hack. For me, he's bum of the year. On paper, this Broncos team was supposed to be an absolute monstrosity. And then look here, some of the players, you have great players like Jerry Jeudy, who in training camp they were saying was unguardable. Obviously, he got hurt sometime in the year and they couldn't use him. But in this game, put up 117 yards on 6 receptions, and he still got studs like Courtland Sutton, Greg Dulcich, the tight end. He had a good game, okay game, better said. But I mean, at this point, the coaching was terrible. I knew it was bad from the get-go. Simply, I believe it was a game early on in the year where they had terrible time management at the end. There was a whole minute and they let the clock run down, but they still needed to get the first down. And
that was the first or second one of the week, and that was actually really funny because I don't know if you guys watched the Manning brothers commentary of it. Peyton Manning sitting there the whole time let's get a timeout here. Let's get a timeout going. Let's get a timeout. I think he said it 50 times in 30 seconds. Let's get a timeout going. Come on, let's get a timeout going. You're probably going to call a timeout. Probably going to call a timeout, save some clock. It was hilarious. It was amazing.
And then I was furious. And then every Broncos game this season, for the most part, has been terrible or boring to watch.
A snooze fest. Absolute snooze fest.
Absolute slugfest. It was not good. And I mean, you have, on paper, you have one of the best offenses and defenses, player by player, but Russ hasn't done anything for them. Hackett really didn't show his offensive coordinator prowess at all. He wasn't really a team leader at all. Honestly, good riddance. I think he was an absolute bum from the get-go. Bum of the year for me. And hopefully, and then Russ as well was a bum for me. Honestly, I would have just stuck it out with Drew Lock this year, just because he knew the system a little more than Russ did. I mean, because his performance,
that's the thing. That's the thing about it is kind of going back to what Frank said, because he brought up 2 interesting points that I wanted to talk about. They brought in Nathaniel Hackett, and a lot of people said it was to try and entice Aaron Rodgers and or Devontae Adams to go to the Broncos, which there was rumors for both of them to do so. And so I think they hired Hackett to kind of try to keep the trio together. It didn't work because they're like, okay, well, now that we got him, we kind of have to go out and get some elite quarterback. And the Seahawks were done with Wilson. Everyone on that team was done with Wilson. Wilson was apparently a horrible team player. He had beef with Pete Carroll, had beef with Sherman whenever he was on the team. He had beef with everyone. No one liked Russell Wilson, so it was kind of time for him to get out of there. And so look at that as an opportunity. He was like, okay, Russell Wilson, skill-wise, not as good as Aaron Rodgers, but he's a top 10 at least quarterback in the league, so let's go get him. And then it's like, yeah, we don't get Devontae Adams, but we still have Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. Like you said, he's unguardable. No one can get to this guy, best route runner, all this stuff. And it didn't work out. The other point is Sean Payton. Sean Payton has been a piece of the puzzle silently this entire NFL season, because as soon as he, quote, retired from the Saints, everyone instantly knew he's taking a year off because he knows the Saints suck and he's going to go get a job somewhere else because he knows he can. The immediate reaction from everyone was he's going to go down to the Dallas Cowboys because they've got a good system going, and that's where he can go and win a championship. But now that Big Mike McCarthy's doing well, Dan Quinn's got that defense doing really well, I don't think they go and make a head coaching switch because they don't need to. Mike McCarthy's doing fine. Mike McCarthy has insane experience, just like Sean Payton. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's been to the playoffs a lot of times with the Packers, with Aaron Rodgers. So it's like they don't need that. This is a place that people have been talking about, and you said the same thing with like Vic Fangio. That's a guy who has been in talks with Sean Payton. He's kind of like building the pieces for his team. It's kind of rumored that wherever he goes, probably the Broncos, he's going to come in there and basically rehire every piece of the coaching staff and make that team his, which I think that this is probably the number one pick for that right now, because still on paper they have a fantastic team. Get him healthy next year, get some good play calling for Russell Wilson, and that skill score. Javonte Williams will be healthy again, and I think that's a place that they can do pretty well.
That's a great point that you bring up about the play calling too, because when you look at who did he coach for most of his time in New Orleans, right? Drew Brees, another very similar quarterback to Russell Wilson, at least physically, right? His play is very similar. I think Wilson's probably a little bit better on his feet than Drew Brees was. Drew Brees probably had a little bit better pocket presence than Russ did, or Russ does, but again, like two out of three quarterbacks, actually, Baker Mayfield I think is the other one, but 2 out of 3 quarterbacks that are under, I think, 6'1" in the NFL. And so, having been used to that in New Orleans, I think that Sean Payton will kind of take a lot of those lessons that he got from there and move them to the Broncos. Again, I love that match, because I think that he'll really be able to get the most. If they can go and get a good running back this season, I think that the Broncos are right back in the midst of it this next year. Because that's really all that Sean Payton needs to make a team good. So,
well, that's the final piece of this thing before we move on. Is, let's say Nathaniel Hackett was the issue, the only really big issue besides like injuries, and of course everyone plays bad sometimes. But let's say that was the issue. Russell Wilson's not a bum. His receiving core is not a bum. It's just Nathaniel Hackett. Then I think next year, if they get Sean Payton, who we know is a good coach, he's proven it year after year after year for a decade. He's one of the best coaches in the league, up there with Andy Reid and Bill Belichick, as Mike McCarthy as a few of the best coaches in the 2010s. I think that's a time where they can go on a run and get 12 wins in a season, if that's the issue. But only time will tell. Maybe he goes there, maybe he doesn't. Maybe Russell Wilson is still washed, and maybe they get a few more wins next season because they have Sean Payton, but not enough to make it worth it. But we'll see next season. But we're going to go ahead and move on to the next thing. And this is massive, massive news right here is what we're going to be talking about next. Breaking news. J.J. Watt has officially retired. And
it's a sad day in the NFL.
Man, it's a sad day. I think J.J. Watt is one of the best players to ever touch the football field, both on and off the field, because he is a monster on the field. He only played 11 seasons, and a good number of those he didn't play much. Like, you can see several years there. 2016 played 3 games, 2017 played 5 games, 2019 played 8 games, 2021 played 7 games, and then the rest he played the full season. But to have only played for like 9.5 seasons of like full games, basically 8-9 seasons, to get 111.5 sacks is insane, and to have 2 seasons with 20+ sacks is insane. To have multiple interceptions and multiple pick sixes as a defensive lineman is insane. His 2014 season is the biggest one to talk about. 20.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 5 fumble recoveries. He had a pick 6, and he had 5 total touchdowns. as a defensive lineman, he had 20 plus sacks and 5 touchdowns, because I don't know if you guys know this, but he was a tight end in college. So he can catch the ball and he can bulldoze some human. I mean, he's a giant. He is a giant human being. He can just bulldoze people. So they threw him out on the offense a couple times there, and to get 20 and a half sacks and 5 touchdowns in one season is extremely impressive. I mean, there's a lot of wide receivers who don't even get 5 touchdowns in a season, but for a defensive lineman to do so, 2014 he was second place in MVP voting, losing to Aaron Rodgers, who had his first MVP season with 38 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Great season for Aaron Rodgers, obviously, but it would have been amazing to see J.J. Watt get that there. We were talking before we recorded about the MVP and kind of how we feel about it being a QB award versus an award that other people can get. And I kind of made the argument that it's a quarterback award because quarterbacks are oftentimes the most valuable player on the football field. Like, if you remove any one player from a team, if quarterback is going to be the most impactful. I think this is one of those rare occasions where J.J. Watt probably should have won it, because Aaron Rodgers obviously is an amazing quarterback, but I think J.J. Watt made such a big impact because the Houston Texans had a positive record that season and made the playoffs, going 9-7, and that was on the back of J.J. Watt. Nothing else on their team was worth noting. Maybe a couple players here and there were decent enough, but to get to average multiple sacks a game and to average half of a receiving touchdown every game as a defensive lineman, I mean, he put that team on their back and brought them to that. To the place they did, and of course they didn't win a Super Bowl or anything, but that's just one guy who managed to do that. And it was funny because his whole story starts going into the draft, getting drafted 11th overall, and everyone booed. No one wanted him on their team in the Texans fan base. No one did. And his 2011 season, he really didn't have the great of a season. 5.5 sacks. You know, it's kind of whatever. 2 fumble recoveries, but no forced fumbles. It's kind of like, You know, it's like, it's not a horrible season for a rookie, but based on what he was supposed to do, people didn't really like him. And he told stories before about, his coaching staff getting onto him for like, hey, why aren't you getting pressure here when you very easily can? And he talked about he just kind of flipped a switch and he was like, you know what? I'm a guy who has my own style of play. I'm just going to play the way I want to, basically, instead of the way they're telling me to, and see how it works. And then he goes on and next season gets 20.5 sacks. And then the next season gets 10.5. Next season gets 20.5. Next season gets 17.5. And he just goes on a tear. 2018 gets 16 sacks. This season so far he's at 9.5 sacks and the season's not over yet, which I think it's kind of unclear if he's going to be playing the last 2 games of the season or not. I think he's planning to, but either way, probably going to hit double digits in sacks this season if he plays the whole season. If not, then it's because he didn't play the whole season. But he's been a monster from start to finish, only playing 11 seasons and making such an impact as he did. And, that's just the on-the-field stuff is extremely impressive, coming that close in MVP voting. I think he's the only defensive player in the last decade that deserved it. You can make a case for Aaron Donald maybe, but I don't think Aaron Donald made as much of an impact any of his seasons as J.J. Watt did in the 2014 season specifically, because they had other pieces on that. Not to take away anything from Aaron Donald, but there was other people on that team that got them to where they were. It wasn't just him. But this season in particular was one where he was the reason that team had the success they did. But he's a great guy off the field. He won the Walter Payton Man of the Year award for all the stuff he did off the field. He raised at one point $41.6 million for hurricane relief in Houston after the guy by hurricane. So he's just one of those class act guys that does as much on the field as he does off. He's one of the best defensive players of all time. There's people that have better stats than him, but they played a lot longer than he does, and I think that he is one of the best to ever play that position. I don't think many people are going to probably disagree with that, but played for the Texans and Cardinals and made an impact on both teams. And then, like I said, the off-the-field stuff is huge as well, so I just think all around one of the best guys to play the game. I mean, Pro Bowls nearly every year, All-Pro, I think 5 times, first-team All-Pro. He was just such an incredible player, and it's sad to see that his career kind of got wasted in Arizona, because he kind of went there thinking this is the team that can go on a run here, and they tried it and it didn't work out, and so now he's kind of retiring on a sad note on a losing season with the Cardinals. So it kind of sucks for him, but he will go down as a first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt in our mind. He's that guy. He's gonna get there, and he'll still be involved in the NFL and in his community outside of that. And especially with the Texans, he was such a big piece of that. He was involved with every business that the Texans organization was involved in. He did a lot of charity off the field. He had his own theme song whenever he got a sack. They would play Turn Down for What in the stadium, in the Texans stadium, whenever he'd get a sack. And he had his big entrance. He wore number 99, it just feels like a powerful number for a defensive lineman. I don't know. Maybe I'm just going overboard here, but J.J. Watt is a class act guy, and I mean, you guys are welcome to give your thoughts on his retirement, because I've been rambling on for a few minutes now.
No, I totally agree with what you're saying. I think the man was an absolute poet of a football player. I mean, the way that he played the game was just inspirational to watch, and also just incredible too, because you never were safe as an opposing quarterback. if you went up against him, that your quarterback was probably going to be hurried at least 5 times and sacked, at least once, which is crazy. I mean, no other, defensive lineman in the NFL can really say, something like that. Maybe his brother, TJ Watt. But, I mean, we were privileged to watch, how great of a player that, he is. Again, like you said, both on and off the field. And I don't really feel like, I can add much more to that. I think his greatness kind of speaks for himself. I remember watching, I think, a game in 2009 or 2010 of him when he played for Wisconsin going against Ohio State. And I think he had like 3 or 4 sacks or something. And I think Russell Wilson might have been on the same team, possibly. I'm not sure. But they, were talking about him and, talking about how he was a legitimate NFL, draft prospect and whatever. And then, he goes to the NFL and does what he does. So respect to him and wish him nothing but the best.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Gian? Give your thoughts on that.
Likewise. I mean, you guys have said it all. He was. I haven't watched football as long as you guys, but let me tell you, he made watching defenses fun, dude. Watching him just take down quarterbacks, swim through the O-line. He was a monster, an absolute beast. I just loved watching him play. It's sad to see him go, but shout out to him for all those good years and of watching him play and making those big upsets and changing the momentum in the game. Like you could really feel his presence on the field. So sad to see him go, but I wish him the best.
Yeah, and just the final notes. You know how Aaron Donald's been viewed, not so much this year, but like 3 years previously, where he's been like top 10 player in the NFL, defensive player of the year, scariest guy on the field. That's what J.J. Watt was from 2012 to 2015. Like I said, getting 20.5 sacks, 10.5, 20.5, and 17.5. He got like nearly 80 sacks across 4 seasons, which is absolutely mind-blowing that he got that many sacks across that many years. And like Frank said, like he was always rushing the quarter. Like if he was on the line and you were playing against him, you had to get that ball out quick because he was going to get to you if you didn't. I mean, even if he wasn't getting a sack, he was getting enough pressure, taking an offensive lineman away from someone else to give someone else an opportunity. I mean, he was like whenever Calvin Johnson was playing and they had to throw like 2 or 3 guys on him to cover him. That's how it is with J.J. Watt on the defensive line back in his prime. And the last thing I want to say about him is that he is one of the greatest trash talkers. I don't know if you guys have seen the compilations of him trash talking on the field, but it's fantastic. And then along with that, he is a great hype man, hyping up the team, great leader in the locker room. That's another big thing that I don't know how I forgot to mention on that, but typically it's a quarterback's job to hype the team up and get them ready for a big game, but J.J. Watt did that for any team he was on, and he was incredible at it. He knew exactly what to say to get people fired up and how to get people to get involved, and he was very like, work hard now and work hard tomorrow, because it doesn't matter if we win or lose, there's more work to be done. And it makes sense coming from teams that have played horrible, but I mean, I think that if he'd been on a Super Bowl team, he'd have the same mentality. Like right after Super Bowl win, it's like, all right, we had our fun, now let's go do it again, get back to work for next year. He's just that guy. So props to him. I hope he has an incredible retirement. I hope they get him on commentating or something like that, which there's very few players that I like. That would be
incredible.
Yeah, there's very few players that I like that transfer to commentating after they retire, but I think J.J. Watt's one of those guys that could do it. I would especially like listening to him commentate over some of the Steelers games and T.J. Watt in there getting 20 sacks a season. I mean, that's something that I hope to look forward to in the coming years. But take some time off, JJ. You've earned it. Take a couple years off and enjoy your family. He had a kid. His baby actually came to his last game. He posted on Twitter when he announced his retirement, and he said it was his baby's first NFL game and his last. And I was like, oh man, that's so sad. But props to him. Go have fun with your family. Hey, congrats to you, JJ Watt. Round of applause for you. Congrats on retirement.
Exactly.
We'll move on. College football playoffs. We don't really talk college football. We haven't done it all year, but we're going to talk about it because college football playoffs are coming up here pretty soon. So we're going to talk about it. I guess first we'll just give our predictions. So you got the Peach Bowl, Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Got to give that Chick-fil-A shout out. Georgia Bulldogs versus the Ohio State Buckeyes, and then the Michigan Wolverines against the TCU Horned Frogs in the Fiesta Bowl. What do you guys think is going to happen here? I think my prediction's pretty easy. Bulldogs versus Michigan in the finals, and Bulldogs probably win it. But I'd love to hear your thoughts if you disagree. I know Frank probably has something to say about that, being from where he is.
Being a true believer in Ohio State football, I do have something to say about that. I think that the Georgia game is a lot closer than people think that it's going to be, and I think Ohio State ekes it out. Just like
Disgusting.
the World Cup. Just like the World Cup, I think that everybody would love to see another Ohio State-Michigan matchup. I don't really see too many people being interested in TCU winning. They're a little bit of
I
a
agree with
snooze fest to
half that.
watch,
I don't
although
think
their
anyone's-
championship was good. Good.
I don't think anyone is interested in TCU winning, but no one outside the Midwest wants to see Michigan versus Ohio State. It's just people that live there that care about it. I
Ohio
don't.
State was the most watched football team by far. I don't have the stats, but I think it was.
just making things up.
No, I promise you, I will find the stats to back it
No,
up, John.
I
if
believe
wanna
you. I
give your thoughts.
believe you, Frank. I'm just saying, like, I don't know a single human being, which I'm from the South, I'm from the SEC. I don't know a single human being who would prefer to watch an Ohio State versus Michigan. I think that's what everyone that I know, that's their least wanted. They'd rather see any other combination than Ohio State versus Michigan. They just don't care about it. It's just like, oh, whatever, another Ohio State-Michigan game, like we've seen that before, versus something like Georgia versus Michigan. That's not a common matchup you see. But go and give your prediction. So you think Ohio State squeaks it out and then Michigan squeaks it out? Who do you think wins?
Yeah,
after that?
I think Ohio State squeaks it out. I'm not so sure about Michigan, to be honest. I think that TCU and Michigan are very closely matched in terms of how good they are. I actually know some people that know, like J.J. McCarthy and Trevor Keegan, all those people on Michigan. But I'm going to say that they do. I think that game will probably be like 42, 24, 27. And then I think the Ohio State-Georgia game is going to be somewhere around like probably 42-45. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. And I think that Ohio State squeaks it out and then goes on to win the championship. I know that might be a little bit of wishful thinking on my part, but that's going to be my prediction. So
I think TCU is the Cincinnati of this year's college football playoffs. Not that
yeah, I agree.
Not to take anything away from either team because I think they both deserved it, given the season. But Cincinnati kind of got destroyed as soon as they stepped into the big leagues. Not to be a douche about it, but I think TCU is another one of those where I think they're probably better than Cincinnati was last year, just comparatively to the other playoff teams. But
yeah, I would agree. I think
TCU's
their quarterback play is a lot better.
Yeah, I just think TCU is a little bit out of their league. I think Michigan beats them by at least a touchdown. And I think the Ohio State-Georgia game is probably a little bit lower scoring, probably 20-something or 30-something, because the Bulldogs win off of their defense. Not so much this year as they did last year, but still so. Like, they have an incredible defense. Their quarterback, Stetson Bennett, I don't like him. UGA is my team, and I hate, and it's not because I like good teams, it's because I'm from Georgia. It's my state, so I like the Georgia Bulldogs. But Stetson Bennett is 25 years old. He's a super, super senior playing football with 18-year-olds, and it's just weird. And he's not a good quarterback. Not like he's bad, but he's just one of those very basic game manager types. You can win a championship with him if everything else on your team is perfect. But
it's like an AJ McCarron
yeah,
type of player where he's just boring.
Yeah, no one thinks that's. I don't know how he was a Heisman finalist. I do not understand it. He did not deserve it. He is just an okay quarterback. Not that he's bad, but he's an okay quarterback, and he's not going to have a job in the NFL because he's already 25 and he's not playing impressively. So, but I think the defense is enough to get the Bulldogs to the state or to the championship, and then I think they win it again. I just don't see them losing so much as a steamroll they've been on. I think that they've got it figured out basically how to win. They did it last year with their defense. I think they're going to do it again this year with their defense, and I think Georgia Bulldogs versus Michigan will be a good game to watch. I think that'll be a little bit higher scoring because I think Michigan's offense can put up more on Georgia's defense than probably Ohio State can. And I think
they don't have Blake Corum though, and that's that's one of their big things with their run game, and they're missing a huge piece of that. So
yeah, I think the style of football I think the style of play in college football is fans expect a lot more perfection from college football play than they do NFL. If you run a play and you get 1 yard and you're watching college football, everyone's pissed. But in the NFL, it's like, oh, that sucks. But yeah, we got 3 more downs, we can do it. But I've seen people watch the Georgia Bulldogs game, and if they don't, if they throw on first and then they'll throw it and it's just an incomplete pass, everyone's freaking out and is pissed. It's there's just a higher level there's a higher expectation for them. I don't really know why, but there is, and so I think that
I think people
even-
are more invested in local teams like that. Like,
Yeah, I think that's
where
definitely. I
they
think more
really
people
feel
are more
like it's
passionate.
theirs.
But I think even missing players that, in the stage that they are in now, they have enough to step up and still make plays. Because I think that people just getting obliterated at this stage is rare in terms of like you just get no offense going. Like even if you're down your star running back, like I think you still get something going. And so, I mean, I do agree with you. Like it definitely hurts them that they don't have that. But I think that's not like season ending. I guess I don't know. John, what are your thoughts? You
Yeah.
haven't really said much yet. I'm curious what you think about the college football playoffs.
Well, here's what I have to say. Georgia's gonna smack Ohio State.
Yes,
They're
sir.
not gonna.
Not true.
Georgia's going to destroy Ohio. This is Georgia, and this is Ohio. Just pummel right through them. I'm sorry. I am sorry. Ohio State. It's not their year. And then it's going to be Michigan, TCU. Never heard of you. Goodbye. Michigan, Wolverines are going to snack on TCU. They're going to destroy them. And it's going to be Georgia, Michigan, with Michigan taking the trophy this year. That's right. Wolverines this year. Wolverines.
To
So we
Gion's
all have-
credit,
we all-
he has been on the Wolverines train the entire year, so he's not
It's
a
hard-
bandwagoner,
it's-
even
it's-
though he's a Miami native.
I'm a Miami native. I'm a Florida Gator, but I've been on the Wolverines all year long. It's Wolverine season, baby. It's their year.
It's interesting that there's 3 games in the playoffs and we all have different brackets. I like it. It's nice and diverse. I like that we all have different predictions. So we'll see who does more right. We're not going to throw any bets on it because we don't care about college as much as we do NFL. But it's still interesting to talk about. The other piece of this whole thing that we wanted to discuss is the college football playoff. Oh, hi, my cat is here. The college football playoffs moving to 12 teams. What do you guys think about that? I know we kind of mentioned they were going to talk about it beforehand, and we all kind of had some of you had mixed emotions about it. What do you guys think? I'll let you guys give your piece, and then I'll go.
So
Gio?
for me, as someone wanting to get into college football and wanting to watch it a little more, I think having more teams in the playoffs would definitely make things interesting, and I think would give a lot more viewership to a lot of players. That maybe gives them more spotlight to shine to see if they get drafted into the NFL. But at the same time, there's also the issue that they might get hurt or risk injury before entering the NFL. Although in recent years, I've been noticing that like a lot of players that get drafted, they're either injured one way or another prior to the season, and they have to step back. A good example is Jameson Williams for the Lions, I believe. I think he's the rookie, and I think he was hurt for a good portion of the season, but he's still a stud nonetheless. So maybe I think we're moving away from that stigma that like, oh, okay, well, if players get hurt, we're not going to draft them. I think we're moving away from that. Still concerned though. Like I still think NFL teams would be a lot more happier if the people that they're going to draft are more likely to be healthy, no issues all around. But it definitely would make college football a lot more fun, a lot more viewership as well, and an opportunity for players to prove their spunk on the field and show what they got.
All right, Frank,
Yeah.
you want to give your thoughts?
Yeah, let me look at what the 12-team bracket would have been. Okay, so I'm not sure why this CBS thing has the... Oh, okay, so the buys would have been the 4 highest-ranked conference champions. So that would have been Georgia, Michigan, Clemson, and Utah. And then the rest of the field would have been TCU, Ohio State, Alabama, Tennessee, Kansas State, USC, Penn State, and Tulane. And the first game would have been Kansas State at Tennessee. Kansas State gets demolished by Tennessee. I think that would be a fun game to see, just a high-scoring game from Tennessee. Tennessee, I would have liked to see make it, but unfortunately they had a few losses. Tulane at TCU, again, just kind of an easy, game for TCU to win. No disrespect to Tulane, but like, who has ever heard of Tulane? Then USC at Alabama, great game, in the first round of things. And then the last game would be Penn State at Ohio State, which is always a great game in college football. If you guys, follow college football at all, that's a hard-fought game every year within the Big Ten. And then the quarterfinals would have been Georgia versus whoever won, that Tennessee game. So it's Georgia versus Tennessee, which, again, amazing game. Game 6 would have been Utah versus TCU. Great game. Again, two very evenly matched teams. Yeah, that would be and so every round you have a marquee matchup, really. Game 7 would have been Michigan versus Alabama, probably. And then Game 8 would have been Clemson versus Ohio State. Again, very like storied rivalries there. And then obviously, the winners of those would have gone on. But I really think that it eliminates the kind of the bias maybe that there is with these selection committees, because every year you always see Big Ten and SEC teams make it. And that's pretty much the only, non-changing thing about the playoffs so far. And introducing, 8 other teams that could also win it all, there's the potential for a Cinderella story. It makes it a little bit more like March Madness, which is a great, format for things. And I think that next year you will see increased, revenue streams to whatever schools, make it. And also, it really gives a chance, like, again, Tulane, like, who knows who Tulane is, right? But then that gives kind of those non-power, teams a chance to recruit better and, make college football a little more interesting. So overall, I like it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Those are
so
my
I'm kind of
thoughts.
on the same page. My first and biggest thing is the bias. I just don't like how only 4 teams make it out of the God knows how many colleges are in the country, which I understand it's limited to D1 and, it's only going to be D1 schools. But still, even then, there's still so many teams that only 4 get in and it's just picked by a committee. Like, the thing that always happens is, like you said, Big Ten and SEC, and that's because they bring in the most money. So you're going to pick the teams that get the most viewers. And that's what I don't like about it, because, like, every year you're going to get, like, either Georgia, Alabama, LSU, or Clemson, some combination of them. Ohio State, Michigan are 2 of those that are, some combination of that's going to be in there. And so you just end up getting the same teams every year. And then they pick, like, sometimes they'll pick, like, Cincinnati. That's a Cinderella story, which brings in money. And it's like, some people last year were like, well, does Cincinnati deserve to be in there? It's like, yeah, we're undefeated. It's like, yeah, well, they have an easier schedule. It's like, when you have the 12-team playoff, you don't have to say, or do they deserve to be in? Because they're at that 4th, maybe 5th spot. It's like, yeah, we have 12 teams. Let's go ahead and throw them in there. Let's see what they can do. They're undefeated, like, throw them in there, give them a shot. And so I think it also brings in more money because you can get more games. You just get more games that you can show on TV, get paid for that. And then I think it kind of eliminates the dynasty aspect of colleges where, like, Alabama's been that guy for a long time. Georgia's been that guy for a while as well. Clemson and LSU have been that guy on and off for a decade.
Same with Ohio State. Same with Ohio
Ohio
State's
State.
Been up there.
Yeah, Notre Dame has been up there before. Like, there's plenty of these teams that just kind of give me a second.
I think Notre Dame has been up there as well as what he has been saying, but this really just kind of gives you the ability to see a lot more, from these teams that are making it. But go ahead, Ethan.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And so you get people that, because, like, a lot of times people want to go to those premier schools because they know they're going to get a shot at the national stage where everyone's going to be watching all the NFL scouts, things like that. Because the majority of people in college don't make the NFL. That's just how it is. It's very, very difficult to make the NFL. So if you're a team that every year or, like, half of your college career you're going to make the playoffs and probably the national championship one of those years, it's like, yeah, you're going to want to go to one of those teams. But if you have 12 teams there every year, it's like that broadens it a whole lot, especially if you've got teams like USC, Tennessee, Utah, that Tulane that can all be in there. It's like, these are some schools that are good. They have good programs, but, like, getting them on a
playoff national platform gives them that much of a bump to really take the next step. And maybe players who are coming out of high school look at them, it's like, okay, well, they went to the playoffs and they made a decent run, and they get eyes from the NFL scouts, so maybe I want to go there instead of Georgia, because I can go to Georgia and get looked at, but I'm not going to get as much playing time as maybe if I go to Utah and get playing time and I get to make the playoffs. And so I think it just kind of makes the whole thing better.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing with that is, too, right, you don't have these stud players who say, oh, well, we've had a great season all season, but we're not going to play, in our bowl game, or we're not going to play in the championship game because we don't want to get injured. I think you see a lot more people playing, because that, right? So say you're a first-round team, you're Tennessee, you have 3 games. You can't really afford to sit out those 3 games, and because that makes you look bad if you win those 3 games. So say, Ohio State plays those 3 games. CJ Stroud says, I don't really want to play, I don't want to get injured. Then you put in their, I forget who their backup is, Jack something or other. But you put in the backup quarterback, and he plays well and he balls out. And, they say, this really hurt CJ Stroud's draft stock because he didn't end up being all that necessary to the team, right? You need to play in these games to show that you are vital, to the team, that you have, these skills, because football is kind of a what have you done for me lately, game, and maybe less so than basketball or other sports like that, but certainly there's recency bias, and seeing players sit out for 3 games in the playoffs is going to hurt their draft stock, and I think you'll see more players play longer. So
yeah, I agree with that completely. I think it's just overall, it's kind of everything that we just said is the reason that I think it's a positive move to go to the 12-team college football playoffs, which I'm excited to see in a couple of years. It's going to happen, and we'll probably do more commentary on college football once that happens, because now it's like, okay, well, if you don't go undefeated, then you're not going to make it. And so it's like, okay, well, then why are we even going to talk about this? Because if the team loses 1 game, it's like, okay, then they're out. But it's like with the NFL. We can talk about the Lions losing half their games and still maybe they can make it. Same thing with the Packers. College football is not like that, but it can become that way where it's like you can lose a game or 2 and still make it, which I don't like that perfectionist, like you have to be perfect all season long to do it kind of thing. Like I think you can mess up once in a while, and if you you're still good enough overall, like on average you're the best team, you can still make it and go on a run, and I like that. So
yeah,
I like it, but we'll move on. Gonna talk about Tua. So hey, Gian, I'm gonna throw you up here because I know you got a sad face on right now because Tua, man, he needs to retire. I have a thing right here showing his stats before and after his concussion hit, his potential concussion hit in the Packers game, just so you guys know that he's not a bad quarterback. Pre-concussion, 9 of 12, so 75% completion rating, 229 yards, 20 yards almost per attempt, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Afterwards, 7 for 13, almost 50% completion rate, 81 yards, 6 yards per attempt, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Getting hit like that really does affect you, and this is his 3rd time this season where Tua has been out for a concussion. And I think at this point they might fall out of the playoff picture if he doesn't play the rest of the season, and I don't think he does because it's just dangerous for him. But I'll defer to you, Gian. I'll let you take the reins on this one because I want to hear what you have to say. Because as a Dolphins fan, I think you have the best idea of what should happen with Tua going forward. So.
Yeah, no, and it's really sad to see. The last thing you want to see is your quarterback getting hurt, especially after he's worked so hard to be as good as he is now, to build a team around him. He truly is a leader on the field, but to see him get hurt all the time, concussions, they're never easy. They're not good for the quarterback's health, obviously. And I think the best thing for Tua right now is to take it easy, not play the next few games. And as a Miami fan, that means you're going to risk a tough matchup with the Patriots, who are also in the hunt for the playoffs. They're going to play as hard as they can. They're one of the better defenses in the league, and I would not put Tua out there and risk him again because he's the future of this team. And even then, like you said, I wouldn't blame him for retiring, dude. Like, the guy's had some pretty nasty concussions this season. it's sad. It's sad to see him get hurt like that. I would, if I were the Dolphins, I would invest in trying to get a better O line next season. Just because that O line isn't holding up, he's getting hit left and right, and it's not just for the team's benefit, but for the players' safety as well. Because we could have a superstar team, but if they're all getting hurt, what's the point? I think Tua's a great guy. I was definitely down on him before, and seeing how hard he's worked to get to where he is today, he even had potential to be MVP this season. And for me, he's still my MVP. I mean, the guy gave us Dolphins fans a lot of hope, especially for this season, and a lot of great games, phenomenal plays. I think in his best interest, I think he should stay off for the next couple of games, let Bridgewater play, and that's not to say we can't win. It's going to be harder, but I'd rather take the hard path and then let Bridgewater and the rest of the team take the reins for Tua. Do it for Tua. Do it for Dolphins Nation. Do it for Miami, and get a couple of dubs, take us to the playoffs, and once Tua's feeling a little better, let's go for it, man. Let's go for it. If and only if he's feeling better. And if not, for his sake, just please take care of him, because he's a great guy. Miami, we have your back, Tua. We absolutely love what you're doing with the team, and we love the team as a whole, man. You guys are great. But please, player safety, man. The last thing we want to see is anyone getting hurt and any potential injuries that could be chronic or prolonged past the NFL and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Yeah, no, I agree. I think...
Go ahead, Frank.
Oh, God. Okay. I was just going to echo what Gian said. I think that, unfortunately, Miami this year as an organization has really, and I want to be careful with what I'm saying here, because you never want to accuse people of, something that you can't back up. But to me, what I've seen from them is they care more about winning now than the health of Tua Tagovailoa. And that has come in, the sense of there's supposed to be someone who's watching for these things to happen, who is saying, oh, it's not a good idea for him to play. He got a concussion. He's been concussed a few times this season and been cleared to play by a supposedly non-biased, person. And I think the NFL also is partially to blame, but it's really just difficult to see when, players like this get concussed repeatedly, not just once, repeatedly, and then are continued to be played like nothing happened. I've been concussed, playing football a couple times, and I got blindside blocked, played cornerback, and just absolutely knocked the living daylights out of me. Didn't know what happened for a good 10 seconds, and I just didn't end up playing for the rest of the year because I was like, it's not worth it for me to injure myself in this way. And that was playing club football at University of Toledo, so that's very small scale. This is the highest scale. The hits are that much bigger, and it's that much more serious, so I think things should be taken that much more seriously.
Yeah, no, I think back to what John said, if he retired, I think everyone would understand at this point, because he needs to prioritize his longevity and his future, wife and kids, and that whole thing, that whole family aspect, and the rest of your life more than anything. And if this game is going to kill you, then you need to not play the game. But I don't think he wants to retire. He loves playing football. I don't think he would retire unless he basically was forced to. So I think that the answer is just let him sit the rest of the year, man. I mean, even if he can come back and play, why risk it? Because he's a guy who can play for you for, if he stays healthy, the next 20 years. And you see that whenever he is playing and healthy, you are one of, if not the best team in the NFL. Okay, you may not make the playoffs this year, that sucks, but you have 10, 15, 20 years that you can make the playoffs with this guy. let him rest the rest of this year and focus on next year, because it's not the end of the world if you don't make it this year and you still have Tua for another 10 years versus playing him more this season and then you don't have him even next year. So I think that's the play to go. That's the way to go with this whole thing. And a big piece of it is like, questioning refs this season, which refs have been judged and questioned this whole season for bad calls, but I don't think it's really on the refs what's been happening with Tua, because although the refs have made some questionable calls and there's maybe some rules that need to change here and there with being able to review certain things, it doesn't change whether or not he gets hit. And whether you get a penalty from it, it's like, okay, that doesn't matter. Now Tua has CTE because of that hit. It's like changing the rules and making plays reviewable doesn't matter. What you need to do is protect Tua and maybe make the punishment severe for that type of stuff. Like if it's like not like you tap the quarterback on the neck, roughing the passer, I think, but it's like whenever you got him like horse collar, grab him by the back thing, and then slam him head first into the thing, eject a player from the game. I understand you don't want this thing where like half the players are leaving the game every time, but this is something that can legitimately ruin someone's life. And so I think either go just hammer down with those punishments. Like if you throw a player on the ground head first and they can get hauled off on a concussion card, eject the player that did it, because that cannot be tolerated. And we saw it last night with Derwin James got ejected after 2 bad hits against the Colts, and it's like maybe ejecting more is. I don't want to say ejecting more is the way to go because that seems like that's going to get abused, but that seems like that might be the way to go because I don't think there's another punishment that would be severe enough, or just increase the fines. Like if you give someone a concussion, you get fined like pretty severely. Like let's give him a pretty hefty fine for that because Tua's been through it more than anyone else, and he's still getting played. And like I said, he loves to play. I hate it. I hate it for Tua because he's such a football player, such a gamer when it comes to the football. And he deserves it. I mean, he's such a good guy. He's such a good quarterback. Like I said, he's probably the best in the league whenever he's healthy. Statistically speaking, he is. He had more Pro Bowl votes by fans than any other player in the NFL. Like, people love this guy, but he needs to focus on the rest of his life more so than this. I understand, football is his life, but it's just football at the end of the day. There are things that are bigger than just football, and his life is one of them. I mean, he can't sacrifice himself for this game, but we'll keep you guys updated on this Tua situation, what transpires the rest of the season and during the offseason. But for now, we'll go ahead and move on to our picks for this week. Now, our picks this past week were not great, but they weren't our worst ever, so we're not gonna do a severe apology. But recap: this past week, I went 8-8. Frank went 8-8. Me and him tied, and then Gian went negative. So Gian, you are falling out of it. You went 7-9. So, haha. Yeah.
Oh, what can I say? You got one on me.
That brings our total to.
No, I do apologize.
I am 48 and 41.
Really week for football.
It was. Oh yeah. Gian is 50 and 39, and Frank is 40 and 49. So I'm 2 games behind. Some of these games piss me off. The only one that I'm going to argue, because I just pick bad sometimes, as we all. The Eagles-Cowboys game I hate, because that's a game that you go into it knowing it's going to be a 1-score game, but the spread being 4.5 is just stupid. Because you have, it's a 25% chance of getting that right, because it could be a 1-score that the Eagles win by a field goal, or they win by a touchdown. It could be that the Cowboys win by a field goal, or Cowboys win by a touchdown. It's just a matter of, who ends up getting the ball on the last drive, and I hate spreads like that are just that low. It's like, no, neither one of those teams played a better game, because they both sucked at points, and they both played their asses off at points. It's just a matter of how the clock was managed, and I hate it. But I'm not going to complain about it. We're going to move on to next week, and I'm gonna kick your ass, Gian. So first game is Cowboys at Titans. Cowboys are favored by 10.5 points. What do we think?
Give me the Cowboys.
Yeah, Cowboys all day.
Cowboys are on a roll. They want that top NFC East spot while they can, especially now with the Eagles that are playing without Jalen Hurts. And having this victory this week was really good for them. They want to try to go for the top seed. So if they can, they're going to continue to push forward. Tennessee doesn't have a great secondary. Derrick Henry sat out of practice. They're without Ryan Tannehill. Give me the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm going Cowboys as well. If it were any other mid-card team, I would pick them because it's a very high spread. But the Titans suck, man. They suck. They're horrible. So I got to pick the Cowboys minus 10.5 there. Next game is Panthers at Bucks. Bucks are favored to win by 3. What do we think? They played sloppy this past week, barely beating the Cardinals. And the Panthers played very well, actually, but the Panthers suck when they need to win and play good when they don't need to. So it's kind of weird. I don't know. This is a tough one for me, honestly.
I'll take the Panthers just because I don't see the Bucks winning by that much. The Bucks have just been on a skid. This is the worst that Tom Brady has ever played. So yeah, give me the Panthers. I think their running game has been good enough to where they'll pull it off.
Okay. I'm going to pick
For
the
me,
Bucks.
Here's the
Oh, go ahead, Gian.
Yeah, go for it. No, for me, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure the Panthers smacked the Buccaneers earlier this year. Like it was like an absolute blowout. Let me look it up. Oh yeah, in October, Panthers beat the Bucks 21-3,
Ooh.
and that was like a Panthers with Philip Walker as their quarterback. No C-Mac. So I mean, a revenge game for the Bucks. They're playing at Tampa.
It's make or break is the thing, and like Tom Brady in clutch positions is pretty good. That's where my head's at. Is it feels like this is it feels like Tom Brady's supposed to win this division for me. That's what it feels like for me, and I feel like this is a game that they have to win to do it. I think so.
This division's just so bad.
Yeah. Both teams are negative, and honestly, if Tampa wants to stay at least even, they have to win this game. Give me Tampa.
Yeah, I
gotta pull through on this one.
This is one that if they get blown out, I won't be that shocked because it happened last time. But I just feel like they have to win this one. But moving on, we got the Commanders, or the Browns at the Commanders. Commanders are favored by 1.5 points.
Give me the Browns.
Yeah, I got Browns.
I think
plus 1.5. That's
I think this week the Browns finally get their act together. Their team's getting healthier. Hopefully, I'm praying that
I'll take Washington.
At least for fantasy reasons. Amari Cooper and Deshaun Watson get their act together. They play well. I mean, Washington, they have plenty to fight for, but Cleveland has nothing to lose. I think it'd be funny for Cleveland to take out Washington, actually. Give me the Browns.
What about you, Gian? Or Frank, I mean, what did you say?
The Commanders. Cleveland has inspired absolutely no confidence from me this season. Playing against New Orleans, in what felt like negative 28-degree weather because I'm here in Cleveland, they passed the ball, I think, more than 60% of the time, which is just ridiculous when you have one of the best rushing attacks, not only with your running backs but with your quarterback, right? As well, one of the best, mobile quarterbacks at one point in the NFL. So I don't see them covering this, so I will go with Washington.
Okay. Saints at Eagles. Eagles are favored to win by 7.
Give me the Eagles. I mean, Minshew still, even if it is Minshew playing, you got superstar receivers. You have Dallas Goedert, phenomenal running backs, great O-line, great defense. Nothing really stellar on the Saints front. I think Chris Olave is still hurt. So you know what? Yeah, give me the Eagles. Eagles need to clinch the division anyways, and they want to stick to that top seed. So they'll do anything for it.
I'll take the Eagles as well.
Yeah, I'm picking the Eagles. This is a game that I almost want to pick the Saints because of some of the injuries on the Eagles, but Minshew is just such a good backup compared to some other teams, and the Saints are very hit or miss. They win some games they shouldn't, and they lose some games they should win. So I got Eagles. I think it's a safer play.
I think funny statistic about how bad the Browns have been, and kind of to the same effect of what you were saying. They have not won a game in under the phrasing on this is going to be awkward. They haven't won a game where the temperature has been under 21 degrees, I think, ever, and then somehow managed to squeak one out, against Cleveland. So I thought that was just kind of an interesting stat.
That is weird.
Last week, but
next game is Cardinals at Falcons. Falcons are favored by 3.5 at home. Kind of a tough one because they both suck.
And the Cardinals don't
And
have
J.J. Watt
so-
is.
They might.
Or do they not have him? Or?
They might. I don't know for sure. I think they do. I think, based on what you're saying, it seems like he's going to finish the season. So I don't know. Maybe that puts a spark in him and he gets like 10 sacks, on
That's
Sunday.
what I was
don't know.
thinking.
But the Cardinals are horrible,
This is
man.
tough.
They are horrible, and the Falcons
Yeah,
at
the
home.
Cardinals are atrocious.
The Falcons have a really good run game.
Yeah.
It's tough. I'm gonna go
I'll take
Falcons.
the Falcons.
I'm going Falcons 3.5. Yeah.
I'm taking the Cardinals.
Cool.
As much as I don't like it, I feel like it's Cardinals, man.
Yeah, the only reason I
don't
want to
like
pick
it.
the Cardinals is because J.J. Watt's retiring. That's the if J.J. Watt had not retired, I'd be like, okay, yeah, Falcons all day, easy. But Cardinals,
Yeah.
that kind of makes me think that he's like, can I retire on a win, please? And so he's going to go out there and win out the last two games. But we'll see. Next game is Jacksonville at Texans. Jaguars are favored by 4.5.
Oh, Jags all day.
Jags, yeah, that's
The-
Jags.
the-
I'm not
the
even going to
hottest
ask you, GM.
team in
I know
football.
you want the Jags.
Trevor Lawrence has been hot. Give me the Jags.
Yeah, that's easy. That's a
Houston's
fresh,
just
free win.
atrocious.
Next game is Bears at Lions. Lions are favored by 5.5.
Dang.
Lions are at home. They need to win the next two games.
They
make
do
the
need to win.
playoffs. Give me the Lions.
Yep, I got
think this is going
the.
to be a phenomenal game. I think it's going to be a shootout, actually.
You got the Lions too, Frank.
Yeah, I'll take the Lions as well.
Yeah, I think. I think it's going to be the Lions because I think that what's going to end up happening is next week's game is going to come down to Lions versus Packers for the last wild card spot. I think that's what the story's kind of setting up right now is like this young hot Lions team or Aaron Rodgers maybe one of his last seasons is going to make it, which they've both been getting hot. Lions got obliterated last week. It was an off week. I'll give it to them. All right, they're not just a bad team, but I think that's what it's setting up for. So I'm going to go with that. Next is Dolphins at Patriots. Patriots are favored to win by 2.5 at home. I've got to take Patriots here just because Tua's hurt and they're in New England. I got to take Patriots. But Gian, you might still have to stay loyal to your Dolphins fan base and go them. I understand.
I want to stay loyal, but I'm here to give America the right picks, and I'm here with you on that one. New England's got a very robust defense. I'm not too sure how well Dolphins are going to play without Tua. But here's the thing. If I get New England right, I'll be happy. If the Dolphins win anyways, I'll be happy. So it's a win-win for me. I'm picking New England on this one.
Okay, what about you, Frank?
It's the last week of the season, right?
No, there's one more after this.
Oh, there's one more.
Silly Frank.
Yeah, silly, stupid me. I will go with the safe pick on this, and I'll take New England. If this was the last week, I would have taken the Dolphins just to hopefully squeak one out over you guys, but...
All right, next one. This will be a pretty good game. Broncos at Chiefs. Chiefs are favored by 13.5 points. And, man.
Give me the Chiefs.
I don't think this is even a question. Chiefs.
Yeah, I
all
know.
day, every day.
Broncos can't get anything running. They just lost Nathaniel Hackett, although I don't know if that's a bad thing for them.
Yeah, so that could be good or bad. I mean, who knows?
They could absolutely blow Kansas City out of the water, but they have an interim head coach right now, so I don't think that will be happening.
I like the Chiefs. Chiefs, that's my boys over there. Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, those are my boys. But I might pick the Broncos here. I might do it. Because that's a lot of points. The only time that they've won by enough to cover a spread that large this season was against the Cardinals in Week 1, against the Niners in Week 7, which the Niners were in a weird banged up position, so I barely even count that. And against the Seahawks this past week, they won by 14, which isn't even that big. So I wish it were another team because I love the Chiefs, but I feel like I got to go Broncos plus 13.5 here.
Oh.
Dude, no way. The Broncos just got 50
It feels wrong.
The Broncos just
wrong.
got 50 pieced.
Baker
I feel
Mayfield
Dude,
I feel
for your sake,
disgusting. I feel disgusting picking the Broncos, but
that is
I'm doing
atrocious.
Oh,
This is
all right,
America's
all right,
worst
all right. Let's
pick
move
of the
on.
week.
Move on before I regret it, because I know you guys like my pick as well, because it gives you guys a chance. Colts at New York Giants. New York Football Giants are favored to win by 5.5.
I'll take
Colts
the
suck.
Giants.
I'm taking the Giants. That's
Yeah.
pretty easy. Colts just keep getting worse and worse, man.
I'm taking the Giants. I called it. I didn't really think Jeff Saturday was much. Giants still want to win the playoff, make it to the playoffs.
I don't even think it's
I
Jeff
mean,
Saturday, dude. They have so many injuries, and the quarterback situation sucks.
Yeah.
That too. The quarterback situation is really.
I say we give Jeff Saturday.
Atrocious.
Hey, Colts are my team. All right, they're my team. Let's say we give him another year.
Okay.
Let him build a
Fair-
team
fair enough,
and
fair
see
enough.
what he can do.
Fair enough.
you know?
Fair enough. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
The situation at the Colts isn't anything spectacular. Give me the Giants.
Yeah. What about you, Frank? Your Giants?
Yes, sir.
Cool. New York Football Jets at the Seattle Football Seahawks. Seahawks are
Seattle.
plus 1.5.
All day, every day. I don't even need to hear this. When you have a quarterback who is as atrocious as Zach Wilson, you just, what a disappointing game. Garrett Wilson had 1.8 fantasy points. Just overall a disgusting game. Hopefully they cut Zach Wilson this upcoming season, because the man does not deserve a starting job or any job in the NFL, and was my second pick for Bum of the Week this week because of just how atrociously he played. So
All right. Gian, who are you picking?
It is time for the Jets. Jets. Jets are winning this game.
I agree.
They're gonna smack the
I
Seahawks.
was hoping you picked Seahawks. The thing is, I need the Seahawks to lose to fall out of the playoff picture, so I gotta go Jets.
Yeah.
Plus, the Seahawks
Um,
sucked. The Jets sucked last
Seahawks-
week. The Seahawks sucked horribly last week as well. So
Yeah, no. I don't think the Seahawks will get themselves organized. Yeah, they'll be at home. It'll be an upset. I mean, Jets. I have inside information that Jets are gonna win.
Is that what it
We'll
is?
blow out the Seahawks.
Gian has spoken
Not
to
really.
the football Illuminati.
Oh yeah. All right. Moving on, we got the San Francisco Football 49ers versus the Las Vegas Football Raiders. Niners are
Is that even
favored
a
by
question?
6. Yeah,
Niners all
that's
day.
Niners
Brock
by
Purdy.
6. That feels pretty easy. I don't know. The Raiders are kind of
Pretty
good the past
easy.
couple weeks, but yeah, the Niners. I mean, they're on a tear, right? Like, they win that by 6, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Niners win that by 6. I'm picking the Niners. They want to keep their streak up, so I don't blame them.
I mean, I don't know. The Raiders, when the Raiders lose, it's pretty okay. Some of these games, the Raiders have lost pretty close, but yeah, it's the Niners. Yeah, it's not like they're playing your average team right now. They're playing the 49ers, so I got to go Niners minus 6. That's easy. We're all on the same page there. All right, now this one, tough one. Minnesota Vikings at Green Bay Packers. The Packers are favored by 3. I got the Packers by 3 on this one.
Give me the Vikings.
Good.
Yeah,
God, I'm
Jay
glad you
Jettis.
said that.
Has-
Check the weather. It's not going to be anything too bad. Although it is at Lambeau, the Vikings are still shooting for that top seed, man.
Cool.
They're doing everything they can. Give me the Vikings.
All right. What about you, Franklin?
Okay. Aaron Rodgers has a 40-14 record in the month of December, 39-14. Basically 40-14.
Yeah, but it's a different year, man.
That's true.
I mean, pick what you want, but stats like that, I don't really like stats like, oh, in the month of December, this quarterback is really good. It's like, yeah, but Aaron Rodgers has the worst team he's ever had, and the Vikings have the best team they've ever had.
And Christian
arguably.
Watson is also out.
Hurt. Yeah.
So
Christian Watson's
I'll go
out?
with
I thought he was
Vikings.
playing.
I'm pretty sure he's hurt.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
left. He left the Miami game early, actually, due to an injury.
Dang it! I'm still going to pick the
Are you
Packers.
changing
'cause
your
I don't-
pick?
No, I don't feel like rewriting it, so I'm gonna stick with the Packers. I don't want to see the Seahawks or the Commanders in the playoffs. I don't like either. I don't care
Me
for
neither.
either team. I'd so much rather see the Packers. So I win. All right.
Yeah.
Moving on. Los Angeles Rams at the Los Angeles Chargers. So this is a double home game, basically.
Ooh.
-6.5 in favor of the Chargers.
Yeah, Chargers
Baker
all day.
Mayfield.
Chargers.
Baker Mayfield's coming off of an MVP run. 51 points scored against the Broncos.
But not all of that
Chargers.
was him.
Yeah, I'm going Chargers too. I just
Yeah.
wanted to try and get you to change. So you guys are both going Chargers?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
I was gonna take the bait. You kidding me? I already had the Chargers from the get-go, bro. Chargers want to make it to the playoffs. Funny enough, one of my initial bets was Cowboys and Chargers for the Super Bowl with a friend of mine. So
That's
still
not
holding out
happening.
hope for that one.
I can't confirm.
Cowboys are
going
going to lose to Tom Brady in the first round of the playoffs. That's what's going to happen.
I could see that
Jokes
happening.
aside.
Like,
Jokes
honestly.
aside. Pittsburgh Steelers at Baltimore Ravens. Ravens -3. I think I got to go Steelers +3 here because the Ravens are still hurt
Mhm.
and the Steelers are closing in. I mean, Steelers can still make the playoffs at this point. It's still a chance for them. Don't think they do, but I think they still get another win here before the season ends.
Yeah.
So I'm going Steelers +3.
I'll go Steelers
Yeah.
as well. Baltimore has been atrocious the last few weeks, so
What about you, Gian?
What do I do? What do I do here? I actually do not like the spread. I don't like this game at all. But Steelers always
go against us, Gian. Come on, go against us.
Do what you must, Gian. I won't tell you one way or the other.
Give me the Ravens. Oh, I feel disgusted.
Oh, you are nasty.
Ice cold take.
I'm
Unless-
sorry.
I mean, Lamar's not playing, right? Like, he's not back,
no,
right?
Lamar's
is he?
not playing.
Cool. And the Ravens already clinched their playoff spots. So they have no reason to play him anyway. Okay, moving on.
Yeah,
Buffalo
exactly.
Bills at Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals +1.5. Bills -1.5. This is going to
I'm
be a
taking
good
the
game.
Bengals all day,
Yeah.
every day. I don't think.
I'm going Bengals, dude. I think that the Bengals go
I'm
into
going
the
Bengals.
Yeah, I think the Bengals go into this playoff as the best team in the AFC, having toppled the Chiefs and Bills. They've been so freaking nasty the past, 10 games.
Yeah.
So, Bengals +1.5. The Bills are looking sloppy. So, that's free.
I mean, Josh Allen has thrown, 2 interceptions in the last 8 games. From when we started this podcast, I think one of the first things that we were talking about was him, and is it an overreaction to say that he was struggling with turnovers? And I said I hoped it was, but that I didn't think that it was, and I think I've been right so far, where he just has really been struggling with turnovers and has had a fumble or an interception in every game of his last few games. So
Yep. Well, that is the last game to pick this week. So, we'll wrap it up.
all right, well, take it easy, like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you guys want to see more of. Let us know what you guys are going to be doing for the college football playoffs for the second to last week of things in NFL, and what are you doing to celebrate J.J. Watt going off in his retirement? So
Perfect. Give your closer,
Fireworks on New
Gian.
Year's, baby. Oh yeah, stay frosty, my friends. Stay warm, but stay frosty.